Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to the inaugural edition of a brand new show here on the channel. We're going to be running throughout the month of May. Favorite albums through the decades. And in the co-captain's chair today, none other than Mr. Guitar Hack. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Pete. How are you, sir?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks for joining us here today. Appreciate it. We have decided, so I did a show on Hack's channel the other day, and I kind of told them about this show that we're doing. I said, I'd love to have you on a couple of those episodes, and I'm thinking maybe the first episode might be Judas Priest. And Hack was like, I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
So for those watching, just to give you an idea of what this show is going to be about, we're probably not going to do these every day, but you're going to see a number of them throughout the month of May. Basically, we're going to take a look at a band who obviously has been around for a while or were around for a while, where they had 2 or more decades that they had album releases in. So we're going to look at either whether I do them with a guest or whether I do them by myself. What we're going to do is we're going to pick our favorite release from each of the decades that they had album releases in. So for Judas Priest, we've had steady releases from the 70s all the way from today. So I asked Hack to pick his favorite album of theirs from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s, I guess we call that. So I will have Hack start us off with his favorite 70s release from Judas Priest.
Alrighty. Well, as we were talking about beforehand, I was saying to you that, the 80s onward were pretty straightforward, but the 70s was kind of like neck and neck, but I eventually ended up going with Sad Wings of Destiny. A couple of songs on there just kind of put it over the top because it's more what this just had a little better collection of songs that I really love. Like Victim of Changes for me is just, that's like top tier Priest, right? Ripper's on there. Deceiver's pretty cool. I like the Groove of Genocide. It's not a great perfect album all in all, but it hits on a lot of cylinders for the most part. So the one that was really, it was like this was Stained Class. That was just but probably because of Victim of Changes, this just edged it out a little bit. So that would be my 70s pick.
And again, just to let everybody know watching. So we encourage you with this show, every episode we're going to do this month, we encourage everybody to kind of do the same thing that we're doing. Because I'm really interested to see what everybody watching, which albums they pick for each decade. And you know what, Hack, we're going to get a lot of people who are going to pick Sad Wings of Destiny. And I just know that because it's probably one of their most important albums, because that signaled a real shift in their sound to the heavy metal sound that they helped create, right? Not only for the for the general, for the world at large, right? So for me, they've got 3 albums in the 70s that I like all their 70s albums, but there's 3 for me that stand kind of a little bit above all the others, and I considered that. But ultimately, I decided to go with the other one you were talking about, Stained Class, because this is my favorite Judas Priest album. I love this album to death. I mean, when you got Exciter and Better by You, Better Than Me, the title track, Invader, Saints in Hell, Savage, Beyond the Realms of Death. I mean, it was kind of hard for me not to pick this one.
Yeah.
Although Sad Wings is great, and that's my second favorite album by them of all time. And Victim of Changes. It's hard to look past that, but for me, I was like, I love this album, and but you can't go wrong with either one. I'm sure we're going to see some people pick Hellbent for Leather. Maybe we'll have some Sin After Sin fans. I don't know, we'll see, but you can't go wrong with any of them actually. So
no, you can't. And what you said before was kind of amazing that. If you listen to the first Priest record, Rock and Roll, how quickly they found their sound. Like within one album, they were Priest.
Oh yeah.
Which is that's pretty fast. That's pretty good. Yeah.
All right, on to the 80s now we go.
All right, this was absolutely no brainer for me. It's like my favorite Priest record. It's what got me into the band. I gotta be talking about Screaming for Vengeance. It's just the absolute best. The Hellion and Electric Eye. You're done. That's it. Pick up your check, leave. That's it. It's over. Those 2 songs right off the bat, Writing on the Wind, Bloodstone, I Believe You're the Devil. Come on. Everything. It's just the best. The best. Bloodstone, I mentioned Bloodstone. The title track, Screaming for Vengeance, it's just nonstop. It's killer. I mean, it kind of calms down a little bit, Fever, but I mean, it's pretty much through and through almost, I would say almost the perfect album for me. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's my choice as well. And as much as I love Defenders of the Faith, I got to go with this one. And we talked about this on your show last week. It's like,
Yeah.
and I showed the show that we did there was what would be that one album you would recommend to someone new to some of the bands we chose, and I picked Judas Priest. And this is kind of like a no brainer to tell someone about if they've never listened to Judas Priest before, because this kind of gives you a little bit of everything, right? It's
Yeah.
got the couple commercial tunes, got the really heavy stuff. It's got that big 80s production. Yeah, it's a no-brainer for me as well.
It's got a
Like I said,
little bit of Rob Halford crooning that I just he's not a crooner. Somebody tell him he's not a crooner, but he
I
has
know, but
to
he
sound
could do it if he really wanted to, but we don't really want to necessarily want to hear him do that, right? All right, so we both picked the same album for the 80s. Let's see what we do for the 90s.
I got a feeling it'll be the same one again.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, it's got to be Painkiller.
Yep, it's got to be.
Yeah, it has to be Painkiller. The title track, Hell Patrol, All Guns Blazing, Nightcrawler is a great song. Yeah, it's a good record. It's like they're on fire. That whole record for me, it's like they're pissed off. It's like we're gonna play really aggressive. We're gonna be the fastest, the heaviest. And that I mean, watching Priest, watching Rob singing Painkiller is just incredible. I know. Yeah, it's great. It's a great album. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the time, it's my choice as well, obviously. But at the time, I think they felt they had something to prove, because I think a lot of people were a little disappointed in Turbo and Ram It Down. There's fine moments on both of those, but a lot of people thought, this Priest getting kind of mellow on us, and we want the big heavy Judas Priest, and this is probably the heaviest album they've ever done, right?
Yeah, they were claiming their throne for sure. You could tell they were hungry there.
Yeah, yeah. And the sad thing is they had so much momentum going with this album, and then not long after Rob leaves, what is going on here, right? But yeah, and the 90s were not really great for this band, unfortunately, because you started off really well, and then he left, and then the band gets Ripper Owens, and people have a lot of different opinions on those couple of albums, and they were not very prolific in the 90s. And then, but fortunately, we move into the 2000s, and Rob comes back to the band, and that's where we are now, the 2000s.
Right. And Ripper Owens, great singer and all that, but I cannot listen to those records. Jugulator, Demolition, they're just
I'm not a fan either, to be honest. I'm not a fan.
I can't. I've tried. I just can't. I can't. So of course my pick is going to be when Rob comes back, right? Angel of Retribution. That's my yeah. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me.
Yep.
It's a pretty good record. It's not on the same level as I think the other ones we've mentioned. It's a pretty good record. I mean, Judas Rising is a great track.
It is.
Deal with the Devil, Revolution is very cool. Demonizer. There's good songs on there. Loch Ness. I don't know what they were thinking, but I mean, there is some good stuff on there. But it's just amazing that as soon as Rob comes back, the songwriting goes right back to the way it was before, like in that style. There's actual riffs there, there's melody there, like the songs have structure again. It's just amazing how like that one guy can sort of make or break, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, Priest were almost in that whole we have to make a comeback once again, right? And it's kind of like the Painkiller album, right? Even though then it was just a comeback from a couple albums that most folks thought were a little lackluster. Here, the comeback is we got our guy back in the band. And, it's my pick as well. I like this album. It's a really solid album. It's good, pretty decent production.
Yeah.
80% of the songs are really good. A couple are whatever, Loch Ness, I agree with you, whatever. But there's some good stuff on here, and it's heavy. And Rob sounds great, right?
Yeah. No, it's a good record. It's like I said, but I mean, it's a good Priest record, which is better than most records by anybody. So, yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad record, but I mean, they made better stuff than that. But for him coming back, first one out, they did pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So now we make it into 2010 and beyond. What you got for that decade?
Well, that's for me a no-brainer again. Firepower.
Yep.
Absolutely fantastic record. So what I just mentioned about Angel of Retribution not being on the level of some of the greatest Priest records, I would put this up against. I'm going to say it. Screaming for Vengeance. This album is that good. I mean, there's my favorite track on it is Spectre, which I think they did a video for that, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of the singles. But the title track, Lightning Strikes, Never the Heroes. I mean, it goes on and on. Like, you keep going down here. Like, there's Trader's Gate. There's so many good songs on this record. Redeemer of Souls was you know, a, a good album, but not a great album. This album, they just went into that higher gear. And yeah, this is top tier Priest, which there's not a lot of bands that in their later years are putting out stuff that is as good or close to what they put out in their heyday. These guys managed to do it in spades.
Yep.
And I think the addition of Richie, I mean, I don't, whether you're a KK guy or not, I don't think they've lost anything in terms of songwriting, in terms of playing, because I mean the guy's a fantastic, or performing. I've seen them Richie live with them. He's great. They haven't really missed a step with Richie, and they're putting out really good stuff with Richie, and this is proof of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my choice as well. I like Redeemer of Souls a lot. In fact, I like Redeemer better than Angel of Retribution. But I will say that this is my favorite album by Judas Priest since Defenders of the Faith. I think this is better than Painkiller.
I agree with you.
I mean, it's really, really strong. It's really strong.
I agree. Like I said,
you have to wonder if this might be the last really great album we get from Judas Priest. It's gonna be hard to top this one. I know they're working on another one.
Yeah. No, I totally like. I would put, like I said, I would put that on the same. Like for me, top tier Priest is well, favorite album is Screaming. Like that's top tier Priest for me. And Point of Entry would be another one, and I would put that right up there with those records. I mean, it's that good, and for like I said, for a band to be around this long and still manage to put out quality material like this is crazy. Because a lot of these bands, they'll put out a record, because they haven't done one in 20 years, and then why? Because there's nothing really there. But these guys are just, I don't know, man. They're just, I don't know. And Halford can still sing. I mean, they're just an anomaly, these guys,
They
really.
are. Yeah, it's good when you have these like legacy bands who can still bring the goods really late in the game. And it's inspiring, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
It's inspiring for all us guys that are not quite that old, but we're getting there, to think that whatever we do, we'll still be as good 10, 15 years from now. I can be proud of it, kind of like what our heroes are doing. And granted, we've got, because I know I've got heroes who maybe aren't quite as successful at doing this thing, like guys like bands like Priest or Saxon. I mean, there's still some great metal bands who are just dialing it in now just as well as they did back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And it's great to see. But yeah, Firepower is killer Judas Priest. And yeah, what more can be said? Yeah, so we had some similarities here. I think we only had one pick that was different, right? And that was the 70s. So
and that would have been almost the same too, because like I said, that and Sad Wings was neck and neck for me, right? So that we could have been the same all the way through if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. We'll see. So Hack and I have already talked about doing this exact same thing for Kiss. I think we're going to be different on all those. I have a feeling.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I have a feeling. Well, they got a lot more albums, I mean, for one. So
yeah.
But that'll be fun. So that's coming up, guys. So I think we're going to try and get that in tomorrow. So stay tuned for another edition of Favorite Albums Through the Decades with Kiss tomorrow with Guitar Hack. So stay tuned for that. Hack, you want to talk about anything that's coming up on your channel in the coming weeks?
Well, first, I want to thank you for asking me to do this. It's always cool to do these little shows with you. What do I got coming up? Yes, on the Hack Show, which is every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. This Wednesday, I have a gentleman named Brian Spalding, who is an exceptionally good guitar player, who was back in the day, back in the 80s. He was on the Sunset Strip. He was playing with all our heroes. He's got tons of stories of guys he's played with, and yeah, I'm really excited about having him on. That's going to be Wednesday at 8 o'clock. And if you haven't checked out the show Pete and I did last Wednesday, check that one out. That was recommendations to the uninitiated of a band. So, for example, if you were interested in getting into a band and you wanted a recommendation, what would be like a good record to start with? And we picked 5 bands. Pete, I picked 5 bands, so 10 albums in total. So check out that show. That show was a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, it
I
was.
think
Yeah.
we're going to be doing another one maybe in the
Yeah.
next month or so.
Yeah, that was a good conversation. I enjoyed that quite a bit. And
Yeah, it was
again,
cool.
that's like Hack said, it's all about you're talking to someone who has never heard a particular band, you know them really well, which is the one album, and this came up in the conversation, may not necessarily be your favorite album from that band, but the album that you think someone, the uninitiated, who they've never heard a lick of their music, would really probably enjoy hearing that band for the first time. So again, it may not be your favorite, but it's the album that you think someone new to the band would really enjoy, sight unseen type of thing. So
Yeah, yeah, and the comments have been pretty cool. I've been turning some people onto the cult, which is great.
there you go. There you
Yeah.
go. Very cool. Yeah, we picked some pretty notable bands that we love a lot the first time around. Then the second time we're going to go a little bit deeper to
A
some
little
stuff that,
deeper, yeah.
yeah, maybe bands that aren't as well known, and I think that will be a lot of fun too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
stay tuned for that, and please go over to Hack's channel, give him some love, and hit that subscribe button. He's got a lot of great shows over there. So and I love having him on here. So we'll be seeing him tomorrow. So stay tuned. So in the meantime, everybody in the comments below, list your favorite release from Judas Priest from each of the decades that we talked about. We'll be interested to see what everybody comes up with. And then we're going to come back and do the same thing tomorrow with Kiss. And we got more stuff planned in the coming weeks on the channel. So, of course, we've got Hudson Valley Squares on Monday, In the Prague Seat on Tuesday, Monsters Den on Thursday, all sorts of ranking shows happening. We've got ranking the albums of Grim Reaper tomorrow. So stay tuned for that tomorrow morning. I believe at 10 a.m. It's Eastern Standard Time that's going to be airing. So that's Chris Allo, Rich Catino, and myself looking at the great Grim Reaper's 5 albums. So stay tuned for that. For Guitar Hack, I am Pete Pardo. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. See you all later on. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.